Hello YouTube, my name is Sven and this is the LG G Watch R. It came out in October 2014 and I bought my copy in March 2015, and it's been here on my arm pretty much every day for the past 6 months. The other day a friend of mine noticed it seemingly for the first time and he said, "Oh, is that a smartwatch?" And I said, "Indeed it is." And he was very impressed, of course, with me having a smartwatch and all. But then he asked, "Smartwatches, so is that really a thing, or is it, just a thing?" Very good question and very well put. I will try to give you an answer in this video called My Honest Opinion on the LG G Watch R and smartwatches in general. Let's go! Alright, so this is the LG G Watch R in its natural state. When I bought this, I mean smartwatches was a thing mainly for 2014, and they came out and it was Android Wear and the Apple Watch and everyone was very excited. I didn't actually buy this until March this year, 2015. The question is why, and the reason is mainly I couldn't actually think of a good reason to buy one. They are pretty expensive, and the question is, are they really worth the money? Well, when I bought this I had a couple of things that I wanted. First of all, I needed a watch. Just got a kind of promotion thing, and suddenly, from being an engineer and thinking that if it is important people will come and get me, I actually needed to be on time for meetings and stuff. Very annoying, but still I had to do that. So I thought, I need a watch. I haven't had a watch since the batteries ran out in my last watch back in I think September, October, November 2001. So it's been a while, but I've been fine using my smartphone, and before that my feature phone. But now I needed a watch. So I went out and I looked at watches and found out that watches are really expensive things. You can spend anything from couple of euros buying from some guy you met in Square in Beijing to well, there's no upper limit really. And if you want something that kind of looks like this, a normal watch, moderately stylish, sporty kind of thing, you actually need to pay quite a lot of money. And my assumption or my conclusion was that I might as well buy one of these. So then I started thinking about, what do I want from one of these? A couple of things. First of all, I had this crazy idea that I was going to do some exercise, which is not a crazy idea, but it's not very realistic that I would do some exercise. But I needed some exercise, and I thought, if I have a watch that helps me keep track of my exercising, that would actually kind of motivate me to do more exercising. Yeah, right. And this watch has a heart rate monitor, which is pretty cool. I've had one of these before that you strap to your chest kind of thing, and so that was fun, keeping track of my heart rate while I was doing stuff. So I thought, a watch with that functionality, that's great, let's buy that one. Second was the pedometer thing. I was really interested in how accurate it was, because the pedometer is actually a good measure of how much you're moving about, and the more you move about, the better it is, really. So pedometer. And when I bought this, I was actually having some trouble sleeping. I felt that I wasn't really getting enough sleep, and and they were advertising an app for sleep tracking, which that's interesting. Yeah, let's do that. And also I wanted a round watch because I wanted something that was a bit more discreet than these big square things that all the other Android Wear watches are. So the LG G Watch R fits pretty well. The only other round watch at the time was the Moto 360, which I didn't like, and the LG G Watch Urbane, which I thought was too expensive. Very stylish, but too expensive. So I settled on this, and I bought it, and well, this is my experience of actually using it. So, the LG G Watch R. What is it? Well, I have my cheat sheet here. I'm gonna read from that. It was released actually in October 2014, and it is a smartwatch from LG. When I was a kid, LG was actually, it's a combination of Lucky and Gold Star. And Lucky, I don't know what they did, but Gold Star made diskettes, which I used in my youth. LG, of course, is a Korean company. That's the other Korean company. Instead of Samsung, it's LG. And they make pretty good TVs. And I must say that the screen on this is very nice. I'm very happy with it. It is 320 by 320 pixels in 1.3 inches, so 1.3 inches in diameter, I guess, and it translates to roughly 348 pixels per inch. So, that's pretty good. The screen is tiny though, 1.3 inch screen, and really when you interact with it, it's not very easy. It's got a 410 milliamp battery, which doesn't sound like a lot, to be perfectly honest. Every phone you have has at least 2000 milliamp hours of battery time. But it works okay because, I mean, it's a small thing, small screen, not much processing going on, so the battery will last easily a full day and a full night. I think if you use it, conservatively, it will last for at least 2 days with the screen always on, this black and white thing. It feels light and nice in the hand, well built. I think it's metal, possibly plastic that looks like metal, but it's nice, and only 62 grams, which is nice. The leather armband, I guess, adds some weight, but it's okay. Internals is a Snapdragon 400, which is a quad-core processor at 1.2 gigahertz. It also has 512 megabytes of RAM and 4 gigs of internal storage, which is a bit weird to me because this is a watch. What is it supposed to do with all that memory? I mean, you can install apps. I'm going to show you later some apps that I've installed, but really, does it really need that kind of processing power? Incidentally, that kind of processing power is almost identical to this. This is the Microsoft Lumia 640 XL. It also has a Snapdragon 400 quad-core CPU clocked at 1.2 gigahertz. It's got 1 gigabyte of RAM, so twice the RAM of this, and also twice the storage at 8 gigabytes of storage. But this is a smartphone. It's doing a lot of things, like making calls and playing games, proper games, on this very big screen. I find it strange that this watch would need that much processing power. And I think, or it feels like they could have picked a simpler processor and weaker graphics capabilities, and maybe saved some battery life. Or maybe they couldn't, I don't know. This is currently running Android Wear 5.1.1. It didn't come with that, but it's been upgrading a couple of times, and that is pretty much automatic, like your smartphone. It has Bluetooth LE, which is some kind of low energy thing, and it supposedly uses a lot less power. One thing that I was worried about when I got this was that it was going to cut the battery time of my phone very drastically, because obviously the phone needs to be connected to this. But it doesn't really. I think it works very well. The range is limited though, so if you leave your phone somewhere and walk around, it might lose connection, but inside my apartment it works pretty well. Other things it has barometer. I don't really know why they have a barometer. I'm guessing it might have something to do with measuring the position, the altitude. It doesn't have a GPS, but it does have a barometer. It has an accelerometer and gyroscope, which is good. The gyroscope is partly to sense these gestures that you make with your wrist. If you wear it like this and you go, it will turn on the screen so you can see clearly what's going on. They also use, of course, the accelerometer for the pedometer, which works fairly well. Now, the heart rate monitor was a bit of a disappointment. It's right here. It works pretty well, I must say. It measures my pulse, or your pulse, but it only does it once, and it only measures the pulse when you ask it to. So you have to, go into the menu system and then scroll until you find the heart rate app. Let's see if I can find it. No, I couldn't find it. You have to find the heart rate app, and then you say measure my heart rate, and it will do that. It takes a while, and then it will tell you that your heart rate is too high. Well, that's what it tells me usually. No, it doesn't. It actually just tells me the heart rate, 75 beats per minute or whatever it is. And that's a disappointment, because you can't really use it for exercising. You really can't use it for exercising, because you have to stop whatever it is you're doing and tell the phone, the watch to take your heart rate. So that's a disappointment. I was kind of hoping to get that, continuous heart rate thing, and it just isn't happening. Otherwise, it's got a microphone. The button here is basically for turning it on. If you turn it off, you can press a button to turn it on. You can also press a button to wake it up or put it to sleep. Do you see that? Let's wake it up and put it to sleep. Yeah. So very basic interactions. Everything else is done with the touchscreen. It feels very responsive. I never really had any, stuttering or delays or anything like that, and it also is pretty stable. I've been using it almost every day for the past 6 months, and it has crashed a couple of times, but nothing much really. So generally well built, nice screen, good specs, battery life is okay, and stable and responsive. So this is a watch, and as you can see, it is a round watch, hence the R in the name. It's made of some kind of metal, mostly I think, metal, and then with a leather strap, which is very nice. On the back side you can see that you have the heart rate sensor and also the pogo points for the charging dock. And on the front you have the watch face. Now, one thing that you have to realize when you buy one of these is that most of the time it's not going to look, you know, nice and shiny and colorful like that. It's going to look like this, and this is the battery saving white on black kind of mode, and this is what it's usually like. And to wake it up you can move it about a bit. It's got this sensor which is supposed to wake it up if you turn your arm to look at it, or you can just touch the screen like so. The interface here is, I mean, it's a standard Android Wear interface. This is, as I said, the normal view. You can see that I have a watch face with digital numbers, or numbers instead of you know, dial, and that's because I found that it's easier to read in this state. And also here you can see my step counter for today. I basically haven't been walking around much, so I don't know if you can turn it off, but it shows you the latest Google card that you have here. You wake it up and then you can scroll it. Here you go, that's the Google card, and then you have some other Google cards. I have my favorite football team, and it's 15 degrees and sunny here. My shares that I'm interested in. You can turn it off, and I have this very nice photo. The screen is very nice. It's supposedly 320 by 320 pixels, but it is round, which kind of gives it a problem if you want to play games and stuff. If they're not made for a round screen, you're in trouble. Now, the LG G Watch R has a microphone, but it doesn't have a speaker, so you could conceivably say, "Okay Google, what's the weather like today?" Yeah, and this is what happens when I try to use this feature. It usually just gives me a search result. It doesn't actually give me anything useful, which is annoying. But you can speak to it, but it can't speak to you. So if we go in here, we have the latest apps kind of menu. You can start apps, and one thing that I'm sure you can notice here, if you look at the size of my finger in relation to the screen, any interaction that I make kind of covers the screen pretty much. So if you want to play a game like this Minion Massacre, let's see, here we go. I mean, the screen is really tiny, and as you can see, this game was made for a square kind of screen. So you can't really see what you're doing. The controls are here, and my little minion guy, he's off screen unless I'm jumping, which is, oops, I don't know what happened now, but it's not a very good experience, that's for sure. I wonder if I can. Nope, I can't. Here we go. So playing games on this is pretty pointless in my opinion. The interface, as I said, because I mean, the screen is absolutely tiny, and whatever you do, you're going to cover the screen with your finger when you interact with it. So the menu system is fairly basic. So you have, if you pull down, you get these quick things that you can turn on and off notifications, and this will also turn on and off notifications on your phone, so you can turn it into silence mode. Theater mode is interesting because, as I said, even if the screen goes dark, if you move your arm about, it's gonna come on, and if some situations you don't want that, so then you can put it in theater mode and it won't come on unless you push the button like so, which is good. Oops. I use this while using the sleep tracking function, because otherwise, you know, it would come on when I was moving about in my sleep. I got the brightness boost. I don't use that. I don't think I need it. And then we have the settings. I can change my watch face and font size and stuff, and I can restart and power off and things. Here I also have the flight mode or airplane mode, which I need to do when I'm on a flight, and it's kind of awkward to have to go all of these things. Actually, I can turn off the wrist gestures. I didn't know that. My screen is always on. I use it always on, which means that it goes into this black and white kind of battery saving mode. And yes, I can change the watch face, and there's a number of watch faces included, and then you can buy new ones. Thing is, if I go for this one for instance, it looks kind of nice. It looks like a normal watch really, but it's not going to stay like this. It's going to turn into this, and that makes it a lot harder to see what time it is, and that's why I have these numbers instead of these dials. And you can also change the watch face by long pressing. There we go. And I can go back to my photos, which I like better. Now the size of this, I always thought that these smartwatches were too big, but the size of this is pretty nice actually. You have to remember though that I'm a fairly big guy, so it may look kind of small compared to my hand and my wrist, but if you have small hands, it's probably going to look pretty big. It's about the size of one of those manly man watches that you can buy for, you know, almost as much money as this one. So, but it's not too bad. It's fairly light, and the armband is really nice as well. Right. Here we have the watch with the charging dock, and you can only charge the phone using this dock. So if you lose it, you're screwed. Well, you're not screwed. You can actually buy new ones, but it's not that easy. I had to order mine online because I was traveling, and obviously I needed to bring this, and I lost it. And when I came home, I didn't have any way to charge my watch, so I ordered a new one online, and then I found this. So now I have two, but that's good. I can keep one here and have one while traveling. It's a very simple watch dock. It's got these pogo connection things for the charging, and there's a, can you see that? Yes, you can. There's a indenter here in the rim for the button on the phone, on the watch, and then you have normal micro USB connectors. You can use this with any charger, but the battery in this watch is really small, so you don't need that many amps or milliamps for the charger, and it will charge very quickly. The dock is magnetic, so it will fit rather nicely, and because of this groove thing here, you can just make sure that it fits very nicely and flush on here. and it will charge very quickly. So I mean the charging solution is really good. What's negative is that if you lose the dock, there's no way you can charge a phone without it, which is something to keep in mind. I charge it every day, no worries. It charges very quickly. In just 45 minutes it goes from half to full, so that's good. So one question is then, how smart is a smartwatch? It turns out that the smartwatch isn't really very smart at all. As I said, it has the same brain power as this smartphone, but it really needs the smartphone to stay smart. I mean, the smartphone is smart by using the internet basically, and also you can install clever apps to do all kinds of things. You can install apps on this as well, but I get the feeling that it wasn't really meant to be used like that. You can install apps, you can play the games, but you really need the phone to get the value of it, which means that the watch isn't very smart at all. It's kind of like saying that, ooh, I have lunch with Stephen Hawking and therefore I am very smart by association, which isn't true. I might seem smart while I'm talking to Stephen Hawking. You know, you can ask me questions and I can say, oh, Stephen, what do you think on this? And you may get the impression that I'm very smart, but I'm not smarter than I was, before I had lunch with Stephen Hawking. Of course, I never had lunch with Stephen Hawking, so I don't know if this is true. It is possible that some of the intelligence from him would rub off and make me smarter and more handsome and stuff like that, but probably not. But in the interest of science, if you are watching this, Stephen, and you feel like having lunch sometime to check if I will become more intelligent, just give me a call anytime, any day. I'm sure I can work something out and have a meal and talk about things and see if I become very, very smart. But I don't think so. Considering that it's not very smart, how smart can you say that it is then? Is it useful at all? And well, it kind of is, because you have all these notifications, which means that if you get a text message or if you get an email or if someone calls you, it will show up on the watch. And it is surprisingly handy to be able to just check your wrist very quickly instead of getting your phone up. And if all right, so I really need to take this, or you can say, I'm just gonna ignore that. I think it is possible to in theory answer a phone call on the watch, but since it doesn't have a microphone, you can't really, or it doesn't have a speaker rather, you can't actually take the call on the watch. You have to take out your phone to do that, but you can dismiss a call from the watch, which is nice. You can also read part of a message on your watch and see, okay, so I possibly need to check this. And you can also remote control media playing apps like Spotify, for instance. You can just swipe to see get the next tune, and you can also increase the volume and things. And it's not really necessary, but it is actually kind of useful. The Google Cards is definitely useful. Well, as useful as the Google Cards are. So you can see the weather, and you can see the current games teams that you want to watch or follow playing, and things like that. Shares that you are interested in, stock market things, Google Card things. You can get them here, and you can just quickly check them out. And if you want to, it's very easy to just swipe right and say, get them on the phone, open this on the phone. So that's kind of clever. Not necessarily very smart, but it's kind of clever and it is kind of useful, and I do use it, so that's nice. So how did the LG G Watch R live up to my expectations? I had this idea that I was going to use it for exercising, sleep tracking, and I was also interested in seeing how useful is a smartwatch. As I said, it is kind of useful as a remote control for media apps like Spotify, or controlling my Sonos system in the apartment and stuff like that. Kind of useful. The Google cards, kind of useful. For exercising, well, the heart rate monitor doesn't actually continuously monitor your heart rate. It just lets you check your heart rate, which is a disappointment, and I never actually used that feature after the first couple of days when I said, "Ooh, cool, I am now resting, so my heart rate is low." Sleep tracking didn't actually work either. Not a big surprise. The sleep tracking works by checking your movements. So, if you move around a lot, it says, "Oh, you're sleeping lightly." And if you're lying very still, it says, "Oh, you're sleeping deeply." And when you wake up, basically you get this recording of how much you moved about, and you can say, "I've had a couple of REM sleeps and a couple of deep sleeps," which is what you need. The problem is it doesn't actually check if you are sleeping or not. So if you, like me, tend to wake up in the middle of the night and can't really get back to sleep, it doesn't know. Obviously it can't know, because it's just measuring how much you move about. And a couple of times when I used it for sleep tracking, I was up in the middle of the night walking around my apartment, and the watch would tell me that I was sleeping lightly, which I wasn't. I was awake. So I used it for a couple of weeks, and then I figured out that it was pretty pointless. So I stopped using the sleep tracking function, which also meant that I kind of changed the way I charge it, because when I was using the sleep tracking, it would go from full one morning down to about 50% the next morning, and then I would put it in the charging dock as I was getting into shower and making breakfast and stuff, and it would be full again in the 30 to 45 minutes it took me to get ready for work. So wear it when I go to work and it will be full. So it charges very quickly. But now that I'm not using it for sleep tracking, I take my watch off in the evening, and I just put it on the charging dock, and it will be full. It will be full before I fall asleep, probably, but still. So the charging doesn't really bother me. All in all, I must say the LG G Watch R is a pretty decent watch. I use it mostly as a watch, but it does have a couple of good features that I think is worth my while. I really like the notifications. I really like the Google cards that I can just swipe up and see if I've made any money on the stock market today. Playing games, absolutely pointless, because I can't see what I'm doing on this tiny screen and my fingers will cover it up. The menu system is awkward to move around, but then again I never really move around the menu system, so it doesn't really matter. And I love the fact that you can remote control my media apps. So those are the plus points. The also plus points is it doesn't really use that much battery. It doesn't reduce the battery life of my phone very much either. So I mean, I bought this instead of buying a expensive men's watch, and I'm quite happy that I did. It speaks very well to my geeky nature, but all these things that I thought I'd use it to, like the heart rate monitor and the sleep tracking and all that, I didn't use it at all, really. A couple of weeks it was cool. A couple of weeks I was actually consciously thinking about, oh, I have a smartwatch. But after that, it's mostly been a normal watch. And I think that's pretty much the case with technology or these tech things in general. When you see reviews of people and they say, ooh, I used this extensively over the weekend, I can now report a lot of things about it. I always feel that they can't really do that because, as I said, I used a bunch of features of this watch for the first week or two, and then I never used them again. I haven't used the heart rate monitor in months. I haven't used the sleep tracker for even longer time. And that's, I haven't played the games. I haven't installed a watch face. Installing a watch face is pretty pointless because I can't actually see the watch face most of the time. So why should I spend money on it? Things like that you don't really notice in the first week or two, but you do notice after 6 months of continuous use. And I can tell you, this is a watch. It is kind of smartish, but not very clever. And should you spend money on the LG Watch R or a smartwatch in general? It's up to you. I would say if you're gonna buy a smartwatch, the LG Watch R or the Urbane, I guess, but the LG Watch R is a perfectly good choice. It gives you all that you need, really. But you shouldn't look at it as this life-altering thing like the smartphone probably was, or at least it was for us who remember the time before the smartphone. The smartwatch will not change your life like that. It's not that big a deal, but it is a decent watch. You probably won't mind having to charge it every night because you charge the smartphone anyway, and it does tell the time very well. Automatically changes with the daylight saving time and stuff like that. So good. So to me, the LG Watch R was worth the time, effort and money to buy it. But for you basically have to figure out yourself. Are you geeky enough? And also remember that eventually and pretty soon you will probably use it just like a normal watch and not any difference from any normal watch at all. So really, are you geeky enough? It's up to you.